Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months.
Yo to Boat fam, it's the director. Ah, man, what a weird game that was. What a weird game that was for the Los Angeles Chargers yesterday. Man, I woke up today, I'm so bummed. What just a day of utter weirdness and disappointment. I'm sure you guys have seen that meme going around of that Chargers fan that was featured a lot in the broadcast yesterday. We are Groot. I kept thinking that every time I saw her on the TV. I was like, man, that is exactly the emotion that all Chargers fans are feeling. By emotion, I mean a plethora of emotions, from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, from the utmost excitement to sinking disappointment. It was just a roller coaster of emotion. I feel like all of us have been put through the blender, and it was ultimately just a weird experience for everybody. I didn't even have the motivation to throw my jersey on, do anything this morning, man. I was like, let's get on, let's talk Chargers, and see if we can dissect the weirdness that we saw in this one. Just a game riddled in penalties, riddled in weird coaching decisions and personnel mistakes and player mistakes, just everything all over the place. And ultimately, it just leaves us Chargers fans with the question of, what now? What now? What is the rest of the season going to look like? Are we doomed, or is it done? Is it over? We're going to answer a lot of that today, man, and try and unpack some of the emotion that was felt in yesterday's game. And before we do get started, one of the best pieces of advice I can give you guys that are trying to enjoy the football season despite some of the disappointment that we've been seeing from the Chargers: join fantasy football in any way, shape, or form that you can. A lot of the leagues that start at the top of the season, definitely too late to get in those. But if you guys still want to experience football in terms of fantasy, sign up for Underdog Fantasy. It's the best fantasy platform on the web. You can use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. And newcomers, you guys get a nice slice of a good deal in terms of one of these selections here. So Lamar Jackson, if you think he's going to get half a yard this upcoming Sunday, well, you'd be able to have access to that by using code DIRECTOR in matching your first deposit, et cetera, et cetera. Join a fantasy football league. Have fun with the season. It definitely makes football a lot more enjoyable, even when your team is struggling. Now, before we do get started, guys, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it. Lights, camera,
Action!
Your Chargers versus Cowboys post-game report. We're going to do it. We're going to call it the Weirdness. This episode is called the Weirdness, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to talk about why this game was a struggle bus for the entire Chargers team, the Chargers fans, the entire time. Probably starting with this man right here. I see this photo and I just think, ah! Oh, Brandon Staley. I think a lot of Chargers fans at this point would agree with the statement that our coaching is subpar. I think it's less than stellar at this point. Chargers and its fans aren't especially happy with the efforts of Brandon Staley and now company. I feel like we are starting to have a shaky foundation in terms of what Kellen Moore is bringing to the team, which is funny because there's some of the same things I think we've been complaining about with Brandon Staley the last year or so. I think in terms of stubbornness and kind of veering away from the path. And I think in this game in particular, a lot of that bubbled to the surface. The coaching sucks right now, man. I'm sorry, it does. Does that mean Brandon Staley is doomed to be the next wash in head coaches and he has nothing left to offer? I still think no. But at this point, it's really trending on the side of the Chargers just need to move on. Okay, I don't know what the future looks like for Brandon Staley, but right now as a head coach, it's not looking good. And I don't know if it was so much the decision making this week, which of course his resume at this point is riddled with mistakes, a lot of fourth down conversions that didn't work out, timeout misuse, challenge misuse, play calling. There's a lot of things, yes, working against Brandon Staley, but this week it was more so just the state of his football team that makes me push forward the narrative of Another week, or another day, another week, another narrative of Brandon Staley maybe showing that his days are numbered. And that's because the football team in the Los Angeles Chargers just looked so perplexed, so disorganized, so confused in so many situations that you have to wonder what this team was up to during the bye week. Were you guys putting your feet up in Fiji somewhere, sipping on a mojito and talking about Desperate Housewives? I certainly hope not, because that feels like what you guys were doing, goofing off in that bye week. You had 2 weeks to prepare for the Dallas Cowboys, and what did we get? We got a confused-looking football team, a disorganized-looking football team, a poor, I would say even piss-poor game plan versus the Dallas Cowboys, who have shown various games of weakness this season. Certainly a game that the Chargers should have won in several different areas. And it feels like a lack of preparation ultimately led to the doom of the Los Angeles Chargers this week. And ultimately, when it comes to preparedness, when it comes to organization, a lot of times even confidence, that falls on your head coach. And that's part of the privilege of being a head coach in the NFL. You're going to get the praise when earned, but a lot of the times when it comes to being a leader and reflecting your leadership on your football team and their confidence and their preparedness and their sharpness on the gridiron, well, that also falls on you too. Right now, the leadership of the Los Angeles Chargers is in the gutter. We got to do better. We got to do better, Brandon Staley. Additionally, this week, I would have to say that the play calling in terms of the offense was also massively disappointing. If there was one thing I was looking forward to this week, it was the philosophies of offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. A lot of Chargers outlets, a lot of NFL outlets talking about how Kellen Moore wants to drop 100 on the Dallas Cowboys, his former team, stick it to Mike McCarthy, and his comments of not playing the game clock and playing too fast and loose on the offense and putting up too many points, man. Felt like a good week to stick it to the Dallas team. And it did not happen. As a matter of fact, the opposite happened. The offense just looked absolutely terrible. And I think part of that, and again, I'm no offensive coordinator in the league. I'm no head coach. I'm no X's and O's guy. But from the perspective of a fan with eyeballs, I'll tell you that it looked like Kellen Moore may have gotten a little too cute with the game plan this week. Yeah? There's some weird plays, man. This all contributed to what we'll call the weirdness in week 6. We saw direct snaps to the running back. Hey, that's cool, right? If you got the right kind of momentum and you're not too far behind on the scoreboard and the game's been looking fresh and good and the confidence is up, let's go ahead and snap it to Austin Eckler. Maybe throw in an LaDainian Tomlinson type play, the bootleg with the halfback. That'd be kind of sick. But I don't know if that was an appropriate time to unleash that play. And you could say that several times this game. They did a fake screen to the left while developing a real screen to the right and splitting their resources down the middle. And Dallas just literally had to walk forward to blow that play up. That was a little weird. The direct snap, or not snap, but the handoff to the tight end. A rushing attempt by Gerald Everett. That was kind of weird. Did we get a little too cute this week? We might have. Was it as a result of Kellen Moore wanting to get a little fancy, drop some moves, right? He's that guy at the party who maybe gets a little crazy and wants to break dance in front of, all the high school seniors that are just trying to have a good time at their prom. Maybe that was the case. But the offensive play calling was just absolutely atrocious. And I think a lot of it has to do with maybe not pushing forward the Chargers' strengths and Justin Herbert and of course trying to get Keenan Allen open and establishing the run, for God's sakes. Man, the run feels just completely void on this team. Offensively, this team is still struggling, and they're struggling to find an identity. And my God, I thought with week 1 versus the Dolphins, a good team. Dolphins are a great team. I felt like we had an identity. I felt like the Chargers' run game was, my God, so good. Finally, we got a run game. We can lean on that. Pass game was so good. Kellen Moore looked like everything that had been promised in the offseason, and then a few weeks later, out of a bye, we see a performance like we saw yesterday. That is disappointing. We got to figure this out. And probably the biggest thing that contributed to the weirdness and reflects poorly on the coaching was the penalties. My God. I'm going to put Derwin James in the forefront here because I do think Derwin needs to own up to some stuff. Derwin James, of course, called for what? His fourth unsportsmanlike conduct, or what was it? Unnecessary roughness this season. The penalties are out of control. And you could say the same thing for the Cowboys. My God, I kept saying the joke that everyone's doing their best Plexico Burress impression by shooting themselves in the foot. Every other down, we're seeing the yellow flag thrown by both teams, drawn by both teams. It was ugly. It was weird. That's, I think, the biggest contributing factor to the weirdness this week was the yellow flag. We saw that so much. And in the first half, I got to tell you, man, I think the Chargers, we're kind of getting bailed out left and right. Drives that had no business going past 2 or 3 downs. The Chargers had several attempts. We couldn't capitalize on those opportunities, and it was driving me crazy. In the live stream, I was trying to keep my cool about it. But honestly, this is something that I see against the Chargers so often. My God, we did so good defensively, and then boom, we ruin it. With a penalty, a costly penalty. And you know what the other team does? They capitalize on it and punish us for sloppy football. The Chargers could not punish the Cowboys in any form this week when it came to capitalizing on their penalties. And they were a ton of penalties drawn by the Dallas Cowboys in critical situations that the Chargers went scoreless despite all of the help from the Zebras. Now, fast forward into, I'll say, the second half. The yellow flag makes its return. But it makes its return in an old-fashioned way, like an old friend that you've been hoping not to run into from high school this whole time. Here comes the yellow flag, this time against the Chargers. Uh-oh. And the difference here is that the Dallas Cowboys, able to capitalize on these mistakes, grab a lead, and never let go, thus beginning the end of the Chargers game in Week 6. But like I said before, this is very indicative and very damning to the head coach and the coaching staff and the front office of the Chargers. The preparedness, the confidence, the lack of the penalties or lack thereof, all of this reflects poorly on what are we doing on the practice field? What are we doing in film study? What are we doing behind the scenes with these players and personnel that is causing this lack of preparedness and awareness that's leading to penalties, that's leading to confusion, that's leading to lack of decent play calling and understanding of personnel? What is going on? Why is it so bad? The coaching, man, the coaching at this point. And again, there's a lot of blame to be shared here. I get that. And we're going to get to a couple more aspects of it. But at the very top, I got to say that the coaching is what was most disappointing about this game. So much of what I saw was reflective on just a lack of preparedness, understanding, and awareness. And that's on the coaching. We also got to talk about number 10 a little bit here. Justin Herbert. Let's actually move this over real quick. Justin Herbert had a bad day. And that's okay. I think, obviously it's never okay to have a bad day with your quarterback. But I think a lot of Chargers fans are and maybe even just general NFL fans, are throwing a lot of shade at number 10. They're burying him in some Twitter, aspects. And it's a little upsetting, I'll say that. And I will agree that Justin Herbert did not have his best day. Now, I'm not out here to make excuses for Herbert. I'm not saying that's okay, buddy. You'll get him next time. Sure, in some aspects, I feel that way. But in other aspects, I feel like, are we really asking Justin Herbert to win this game for us again? Are we really not going to offer any help outside of Keenan Allen again? Are we really not going to be able to get the run game to open up some space for Justin Herbert again? Is he really going out there with a hurt hand? Some people will say, it's a hurt non-throwing hand. Don't even worry about it. You know how tough it is to play with any sort of injury? You know what you're thinking every time you're gripping the football with two hands? I can't hold as strong with this hand. Ball security. Uh-oh, I hope I don't take a hit from the left side. Uh-oh, my attention is split because of the pain, the searing pain coming from that finger. That'll be an aspect of the game, too. He is injured. He didn't get a lot of help. But ultimately, Justin Herbert, he had a bad day. We saw some bad decisions, some poor accuracy. My God, I think at least 2 touchdowns that could have been, would have been, should have been, never happened because of lack of accuracy from Justin Herbert. I think both of them were to Keenan Allen, as a matter of fact. Just sucks to see. And yes, every quarterback, especially one like Justin Herbert that's been carrying this team for the last 3 years, they deserve the benefit of the doubt here that they're going to shake it off and come back. I'm still 100 million% behind Justin Herbert. Don't know if I can say the same about Staley anymore, but I'm behind Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert has my full support. And Chargers fans of old, even older than me, will say that we had games like this with Phillip Rivers, but ultimately still one of the best quarterbacks to ever play for the franchise in the league. And I see the same with Justin Herbert. We just need to shake that reputation of we can't finish out games like we had issues with Phillip Rivers. And at this point, I'm starting to wonder, was it a Phillip Rivers issue or was it a club issue? Because now we're at 2 Hall of Fame caliber quarterbacks. And yeah, it's early for Justin Herbert, but that's 2 in the last couple of decades. You could even say Drew Brees. Is it a quarterback issue? Is it a talent issue? Is it a club issue? You guys tell me in the comment section below. Now let's go back over here. I was going to talk about this a second ago, but I think Justin Herbert and that topic was certainly important to add on top of this. 3rd and 4th downs have become our kryptonite. And the reason I'm showing Eric Kendricks here is because it's both on offense and on defense. 3rd and 4th downs, every single time, and I'm at a point like this as a Chargers fan, every single time the Chargers need to convert a 3rd down, I'm thinking, well, that sucks. We're punting. The 3rd down conversions have gotten really, really bad. Sure, maybe it's not as bad on offense as it is on defense, but we are just not great on 3rd down. On the defensive side of the ball, it is bad. I think I saw, was it Alex? I forget the last name, from Guilty as Charged on Twitter. I think he mentioned that Brandon Staley had said with his human words that this is one of the best teams in the league on 3rd down defensively. Oh, no, man. No. If there's any, maybe even in the history of my time watching the Chargers, which is back since like 06, in my time watching the Chargers, I don't know if I've seen a defense in LA and in San Diego that has been as bad on 3rd down. Yes, we've had some bad defenses in the past, but I'm talking about 3rd down specifically. There was a moment where the Chargers could have maybe, turned this game around and won this game. Close in the later half of the 4th quarter, that Dak Prescott throws just on 3rd down, 3rd and long, throws a pass to Brandon Cooks, and for whatever reason, there was no doubt in my mind that this man was going to come down with it, convert on 3rd down, and make this game virtually unwinnable for the Chargers. We see that all the time defensively. The Chargers can't stop a nosebleed when it comes to getting off the field on 3rd down. And sure, it's not that way 100% of the time. We saw some great effort, especially by the Chargers pass rushers this week, generating sacks and forcing 3 and outs or 4th downs and sometimes even turnovers. My God, the defensive line deserves a lot of credit. But more often than not, 3rd and 4th downs have been a big problem for this team. Defensively, it's especially bad. Offensively, it's also pretty bad. And I think a big reason offensively is for the lack of a run game. Even options in the run game. We've got Austin Eckler. This guy can run. This cat can run, dudes. Austin Eckler is one of the best running backs you're going to find in the league. He's got no room. And maybe he's the wrong archetype for a lot of these situations we find ourselves in. The biggest reason we were harping and pushing the Xander Horvath narrative, who was the Chargers' former fullback up until the first couple of games of the year, is because we needed an option that looked good in terms of a power rusher, a bruiser, that could just force their way and force their will for a yard or two to help the Chargers convert on those short yardage situations. Right now, I don't know if we have anybody that can do that. And to ask Austin Eckler to do that over and over again with middling results, is not good. Again, it doesn't reflect poorly on Austin Eckler, the player. He's fantastic. We are so lucky to have Austin Eckler on this team. He's nothing but good news for this team going forward, being back on the field. But he needs help. And not help in terms of, he needs to get off the field and rest. He needs help where maybe you don't ask Austin Eckler to jump on the field 3rd and 1 with the game on the line. Maybe you ask a bigger guy to fall forward. I would, at this point, be targeted, talking more about Justin Herbert just falling forward, 6'6", 250-something pounds, right? Let's ask that man to help us sneak our way for that 1 or 2 yards. But if you're not going to do that, maybe we got to add some big bodies to the roster, man. Somebody that can handle that role, because right now it's just not looking good. Outside of that, the run game just has not found any momentum. Like we were talking about at the top of the show with Week 1 being such a good indication of where the season was going. The run game looked healthy. We had an identity offensively. What happened? Where did that go? I think a lot of it has to do with the offensive line, man. And I'm going to have a tough conversation with you guys right now. I think the Chargers, offensively, are going to continue to struggle until they get Corey Linsley back from injury. It's a non-football related injury. Of course, those of you who have been watching the channel will know that Corey Linsley was declared out with a heart-related issue a couple of weeks ago. And that's scary. Of course, we value the health and quality of life for Corey Linsley more than his ability to play football. The Chargers and its fans are behind him on that, and we hope to see him recover very soon. But that aside, I got to tell you guys, the effect that Corey Linsley has on this offense cannot be understated. This center, for whatever reason, and his ability to communicate with the line and communicate with Justin Herbert has such an effect on this team that when he is gone, the amount of points that we score is significantly reduced. There's an analytic that exists somewhere. I don't know, from last year, when we were missing him for a couple of games. The Chargers do score significantly less points when they don't have Corey Linsley. And we're seeing that right now. With every game that Corey Linsley is gone, the Chargers have continued to struggle to put the same amount of points on the board. And I think in my opinion, that is a big reason why we've not been able to maintain that identity from the first couple of weeks when the Chargers were rolling offensively. It's going to be tough until we get Corey Linsley back. Yes, Kellen Moore deserves a lot of that blame, maybe in terms of his system and trying to, maintain momentum without that. But I do think that Corey Linsley's become such an integral piece to this offense that until we get him back, it may be a bit of a struggle for the Chargers to get that momentum without him. Do we have any updates on when he's going to be back? I don't know. I don't think so. I hope that he comes back soon. Above everything else, I hope that he's healthy and him and his family are happy. But I really hope to see him back with this team soon because we need him. We need him. The offensive line has not been blocking well. Pass protection keeps collapsing, especially in critical moments. Somebody, again, I think from Guilty of Charge, those guys have been killing it on Twitter, stated that, no, actually, this time it was Boltby. It was Boltby. I do remember this. They stated right before the drive commenced in the fourth quarter, the last drive for the Chargers, try and come back and win the game in 2 minutes. Are we going to see a heroic Justin Herbert drive? He comes in clutch, wins the game for the Chargers. Or are we going to see a typical drive where the offensive line fails him and the attempt is cut short? And comically, that was the case just a couple of snaps later. The offensive line collapses, fails Justin Herbert, takes a big sack from Micah Parsons, followed up by a lot of pressure that leads to a poor pass and interception. Tough break. Tough break for the Los Angeles Chargers. We're going to blow through a couple of these last points here, guys, so the video is getting a little bit long. We need a blocking tight end at this point. I know there's been some talk about it on Twitter. If the Chargers continue to show this much struggle offensively, and especially with that offensive line, we need to add a guy who has got more speciality in blocking for that running back, blocking for the quarterback. We need to add a little bit of extra help out there. Maybe even use a sixth offensive lineman to help that situation out because it's become pretty bad. No docking on guys like Gerald Everett and Donald Parham. They've been great receiving tight ends, but we need help out there from a blocking tight end. I think it's pretty apparent that Trey McKitty's not the answer here. I think there's a couple of answers out there in terms of maybe trades, especially if you wanted to add that skill set to the line to help out Justin Herbert. Another big aspect, life without Mike Williams. It's been a lot tougher to get Keenan Allen open the last couple of weeks. You guys notice that? Without Mike Williams, Keenan Allen is seeing a bit more double coverage, a little less openness downfield, even a little less openness underneath. It's been kind of crazy, the difference in production we've seen from Keenan Allen pre and post Mike Williams. Mike Williams is a big part of this team, and we've talked about this a lot, so I'm not going to harp on it too much. But this is where I think number one needs to step up. Where is Quentin Johnston? I am so confused as to why we haven't been using Quentin Johnston this entire time, let alone in this game in particular. We're missing Mike Williams. There was talk that Josh Palmer may be missing this game. Why haven't we designed an offense to utilize our first-round pick in Quentin Johnston? Is he that bad? Is he truly that bad that Kellen Moore and Justin Herbert would go out of their way not to utilize his skill set? Which, again, isn't Mike Williams. He's not the jump ball guy. He's not the contested catch guy. He's the deep route guy. He's the yak guy. He's the slant guy. I don't know why we're not using Quentin Johnston. It continues to be a mystery to me. It's so weird. It's so weird that we haven't designed something to unleash him yet. We don't live in an age where a first-round wide receiver can be eased into the league anymore. That's an old mindset from 2005, 2010, 2012. The new era NFL, when you draft a wide receiver in the first round, he had better be part of your team and your identity and your system from week one going forward. And we've seen that with other wide receivers taken after Quentin Johnston this season so far, and Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison. Why are we not drawing up more plays and creating and forming an identity offensively that can get this man's skill set at the forefront of the offense? You know the potential of a Justin Herbert with a deep threat on this team looks like? It looks like a very dangerous unit. Why are we not using the speed of Darius Davis? Why are we not using the openness of a Quentin Johnston out deep on this team? You know how much of a help that would be to Keenan Allen and Mike and Austin Eckler underneath if we had that consistent threat out deep? Where's Quentin Johnston? Is it a skill thing? Or is it a play calling thing? It's an OC thing. I don't know yet. The other thing that kind of drove me crazy with the soft coverage this week, why in the world did we continue to play soft when CeeDee Lamb was just tearing us up, dicing us up out there? That's a big thing against the defense. And yes, Brandon Staley comically didn't feel like he had a bad day defensively. I will say that he didn't have the worst day defensively, but this in particular drove me crazy. We just kept letting CeeDee Lamb do whatever he wanted, and that cost us in the end. One big thing I will say that looks good for the Chargers defense, though, is the pass rush. This is something I said at the top of the season I hope to create an identity with. I wanted the Chargers to be one of the most dangerous pass rushing teams in the league, and so far I think they're starting to live up to it. I think near the top, if not the top team in terms of sacks this season. They've been absolutely fantastic. I want to continue that trend. We just have to continue. We have to figure out a way to capitalize on it a little bit more often. Chargers oftentimes will get a sack, and a penalty would still give the opponent a first down. Or they'll give up a 3rd and long, and then that sack just doesn't matter. We need to find a way to capitalize off the effort of the defensive line a little bit more often. Where does that leave us? Well, Chargers fans very, very worried that the season is over. 2023 is doomed. Do we start looking at tearing down walls and rebuilding? I'm going to say no. Yes, we have our problems, but take a look at the rest of the schedule here, man. Chargers just lost week 6 to the Cowboys. Next week, we're going up against the Chiefs. A 2-3 team going up against the Super Bowl champs is very intimidating. It's not impossible, but it is intimidating. Funny enough, I think somebody posted on Twitter, I don't know if it's true, last time we played the Dallas Cowboys, I think the score was 20-17. I think the Chargers did lose that game. I do think we also were playing the Chiefs following that game, and I think we ended up winning that game. Isn't that weird? It's just weird. I'll just point that out. I'm not going to say next week traveling to Arrowhead is going to be impossible, but maybe we have a chance. I don't know. Even that being the case, if the Chargers go 2-4, after that we've got some pretty winnable games. We got the Bears. We got the Jets. The Lions have become pretty tough, but that's a winnable game. Packers is a winnable game. Ravens have been up and down. That's a winnable game. Patriots is certainly winnable. Broncos twice is winnable. Bills is definitely one I'm thinking we're probably going to lose. Chiefs we're probably going to lose. Raiders is definitely winnable. I think that it's very realistic to think that this team could go 8-8. That's definitely not too bad, right? Or would it be 8-9 at this point? And you can maybe even flip that, 9-8. Seems pretty reasonable to make the postseason as well. So what should we do? I don't think we're done with this season. I don't think we should be giving up on this season, not even close. So what should we do? Well, I do think that the coaching is the main issue still, and there's not much that we can do to fix that at this moment. Yes, you can talk about maybe firing Brandon Staley and elevating a Kellen Moore to interim head coach and see what happens there. You can entertain that. I don't know if I mind that as bad as I do in years past. But I think in terms of personnel, we need help. We need help everywhere. What would I do? I think the Chargers would be wise to trade for a wide receiver, tight end, and offensive lineman, something to help the offense and make a difference there. I think tight end's pretty important. You need someone out there to help block. You get an offensive lineman, even better. If you're not going to be using Quentin Johnson, please go get a receiver. Hollywood Brown is out there. I think he'd be a relatively cheap trade, and he'd be the best speed this team has had in a long time. His name's Hollywood, for heaven's sakes. There's other wide receivers that could be available too. But we need help out there for Justin Herbert. The wide receiver room is not as good as we were hoping it would be at the top of the season. If the team doesn't feel confident in it, please trade for someone you do feel confident in. But funny enough, I think the biggest move I would make if I were in charge of the team, I'm signing big man Leonard Fournette. I chose this picture in particular because you guys, I want you to imagine what this game would have looked like if we had a bruising running back on this squad. Do we have a chance to run through Leighton Vander Esch, who I don't think was playing that game? But either way, do we have a chance at those 3rd and 1, those 4th and 1s to continue drives and maybe even score? I think we do. We need to revamp this running game, baby. And I don't think Austin Eckler's the problem. I think he's still your lead back, but I think we need a 1-2 punch. I do. I don't care if it's a fullback. I don't care if it's a big boy tight end. I don't care if it's Leonard Fournette. I want a big bruiser out there to help in these situations. If you're not going to QB sneak with Justin Herbert, if you're not going to grab a fullback and do it that way, I think we should grab Leonard Fournette, who just had a visit with the Buffalo Bills. That didn't translate into a contract. Come over to the Chargers, baby. He's not going to cost a lot. You're going to be half a season contract. It's going to be peanuts. I want to see what this team looks like with the bruiser on the roster. What would the Chargers even look like if we had a 1-2 punch with a big running back? I think a lot of the situations that we're running into in terms of problems they're not able to convert on the short yardage situations, whether it be scoring or first downs. That's the first thing I would do if I was in charge of the team. I'm getting Big Lenny on the phone. I'm getting him in a plane to LA, and I'm putting him on the roster. We need a big boy back there. I think that would be a big help. So you guys in the comment section, let me know. I know that it seems like all is lost, and I'm upset. Everybody's upset. It was a bad game. The messy game all over. Penalties, quarterback play, coaching, all over. But there's some good things to be found throughout this game. Justin Herbert did make some big plays despite not being his best game. The pass to himself was incredible. Taking off on the ground was incredible. The pass rush looked incredible. Some big plays by Keenan Allen, Josh Palmer. There's good still riddled all over this roster. It's hard to see after weeks like yesterday or games like yesterday, but I'm not ready to give up on the season. I think the Chargers very realistically can grab 8 wins this year at very minimum. And if we can win one of those games like the Ravens or the Chiefs or the Lions, if we win one of those games, I think 9-8 is very reasonable. And that should be enough to get into the postseason. This season is far from over, but my goodness, do the Chargers have some work to do. They need to clean their act up in terms of their coaching, and I think they got to go out there and add some help. Blocking tight end, running back, wide receiver, all things that wouldn't be too expensive, especially money-wise, that I think the Chargers can accomplish this year to salvage the 2023 season. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you liked what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time, and as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Season ain't over yet, baby. We got time to figure this out.